Well, it's circulated Twitter for some time, and now it's been confirmed that noted and prominent soccer journalist Grant Wahl has died. I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories and the black helicopters and all that. I'm going to let the professionals work. I know. Trust me. I want to. I would love to dive into every conspiracy theory that was out there. I'm just going to let the professionals work. But while we let the professionals work, I want to talk to you for a brief moment about what soccer in this country used to be. See, at the ripe old age of 42, I've been around long enough to see the birth of many soccer leagues in this country. I watched professional indoor soccer, and then finally the birth of MLS, and then watched teams spring up and then fold, and then everything was who is coming over now, which retired, washed-up player is going to be taking center stage for the Dallas Burn or for DC United. It was always this thing where you never could really get great soccer coverage because it was relegated to the back of Sports Illustrated or the Sporting News, and it was one tiny little column, and there was one guy who was covering it, and that guy was typically Grant Wahl. And while virtually every other soccer enthusiast only seemed to spring up once every 4 years, Grant was always there. When every other sports journalist would talk about soccer, but dripping with sarcasm or backhanded compliments, well, Grant was there to cover the sport with the gravitas needed. And he always gave the sport, the players, the utmost respect. Because that's what you deserve. You, the listener, the person who would read these columns and who would try to dig up anything. For those of us who would have to race out to the local bars and pubs and hope to God that they were able to cover a Champions League game, well, we were grateful that we had any print at all that would cover soccer. But Grant was there. And as the sport grew and took off, and it became openly loved across sports networks, and everybody was grabbing media rights, Grant was still there. And as podcasts and blogs started springing up left, right, and center, well, if you got into a pinch, you could call up Grant. And even if you disagreed with him and had verbal spats on social media, well, Grant would be there. Because that's who Grant was. Grant was always the person who would be there to cover this sport. He was the person who you could count on. You could disagree with him, but you could count on him to be there. And for a long time, that was not an easy thing to find when it came to the sport of soccer in the United States of America. So it wasn't a shock when, despite having numerous disagreements with the host site for this World Cup, that Grant said he would be going over and covering it. And it honestly wasn't a shock whenever he showed up at the stadium wearing a rainbow shirt, supporting the gay community. Because that was Grant. You could disagree with him, but Grant was going to be Grant, and Grant was going to stand his ground on the things that he was going to stand his ground on. But now those days are over. And it's up to us, honestly. All of us, soccer enthusiasts, to try to fill this sort of vacuum that's going to be left behind by Grant Wahl, who for so many years was the person who most aspiring soccer journalists look to. It's to have someone who always seemed like he was a younger guy suddenly go. It doesn't sit right. And it doesn't sit right that it happened under the circumstances that it did. It doesn't feel right that it happened to a guy who was in the prime of his life. His wife was one of the foremost consultants during COVID. I mean, none of it makes sense, but that's the case so often with death. But we need to respect Grant Wahl's work over the years. The circumstances of his passing, we're going to get to the bottom of it. You're talking about the largest sporting event in the world, and one of the largest, if not the largest, media consumer in the world's reporter just died on site. They're going to get to the bottom of it, and there's going to be a time for that. But we cannot get lost with that and forget about who Grant Wahl was for all of us who are of a certain age in this country. Because at one point, he was the one guy that you could look at in any sporting magazine and feel like you belonged, because he made you feel like you belonged. He wrote about things in such a way with respect and dignity, while everyone else was making fun of soccer, all the slander, all the names. Never Grant. With Grant, you belonged. You were part of a club, a very exclusive club, but you belonged. And as the sport took off, he got his flowers. And I'm glad he got to see the growth of soccer in this country. And I hope to God he knew that he was a part of it, because he was. Whether you loved his reporting or hated it, that man is part of the bedrock of the sport in this country and its growth. Grant, we're going to miss you. Love and blessing to the family. And I'm just going to take a minute and be appreciative of the fact that we had Grant's reporting. His fantastic work will live on. If you have a chance, download his podcasts, especially one where he talks about Freddie Adu. It's absolutely amazing. It's out there. Check it out. And until next time, everybody, please take care of each other. Please love each other. Even if you have disagreements, I promise you, it all goes away so very, very, very quickly. Be kind. It's Nick Aliffi. Soccer down here, soccer over there. Signing off.